so many of the problems of small business owners is they solve a problem, they don't document the solution, and then when it comes up again, they start all over it. It's like they're reinventing the wheel every time.
Hey there, business enthusiasts. Welcome to the Chills Podcast, brought to you by Allweather Roof. Because just like a sturdy roof, our conversations are built to last. I'm your host, Brent Loberg, and we're about to dive into the world of business, family, and the moments that give us those exhilarating chills. Ever wonder what keeps successful people inspired? Well, get ready to find out as we chat with some fantastic all-weather customers, partners, vendors, and friends. We'll explore their triumphs, challenges, and maybe even some unexpected secrets. After all, business is not just about numbers. It's about the people behind them. So grab your metaphorical popcorn and join us on this journey. Get ready to be inspired, maybe even get a few chills of your own. This is the Chills Podcast. Let the goosebumps begin. So I guess introduce yourself to the audience.
My name is Adam Thompson. I am the owner of a company called Focal Point Coaching of Minnesota. So I am part of a franchise coaching operation for small business owners. And what I do is work with business owners either on a one-to-one basis or in a group setting on how to get from point A to point B.
Okay.
Right? Every one of my clients at some point realize that they've built something great and successful and exciting, and that there's another level out there, right? And in order to get there, some things needed to change, right? They need to get better. Better means change. Change takes work, and they were ready to put in that work. And so when that happens, they try to find someone like me. And my role as a coach is really just to kind of guide them in that process, right? Talk through what's working, talk through what's not, put some ideas in front of them, some concepts, some things that may help them operationalize or build a better system or, establish a tool or a better habit that they need to improve, maybe find better people, get themselves out of what we call the founder's point, which is that point where as a business owner, you're kind of wrapped up in everything, right? You're kind of personally responsible for all the success in the business, which is amazing and not necessarily something that can be scaled.
Got it.
So my role is to really just work with them to figure out how can they elevate themselves to a true ownership level in their company, right? That CEO, that kind of chief decider position, and then find people or systems or outside contractors who can kind of work on those other things so they can do what they're best at, right? What are the things that got you into the business, right? What are the things you love to do? What gets you up in the morning? What makes you passionate? Those are the things where you should be spending your time. And so once we figure out how to get those other things out of the way, we tend to break through that founder's point and they can kind of grow and scale.
Okay. It's kind of like don't focus on your weaknesses. Let's work your strengths.
Yeah.
Grow that way.
Yeah. What are your areas of excellence, right?
Okay.
What do you do best?
Sure.
And I mean, look, every business owner, like it's their baby. Right. In many cases, they might have spooled this thing up from nothing, or they took over a company and they found the way to put their stamp on it and make it better. And that's exciting. And there can be some, emotional stuff around, letting go some of those things. And I mean, how do you let your kids go? Right. It's hard to do. And at the same time, once you do, you watch them kind of flourish and grow without you. And you realize, oh, I kind of set that up. And so that's what we're trying to do with businesses.
Okay. How did you get into this?
I came from a small local company. I worked for a company called Zero Res here in town.
Okay.
And
we did the roof, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, nice work. They are great. They're great people. Wonderful company. High growth. My kind of professional, journey started with really big companies. Right out of school, worked for Black & Decker. So, large Fortune 200 company, and learned a lot about process and system and, doing the same thing over and over and doing the right thing the right way and a lot of good training and things like that. And as I moved through my career, the companies kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And what I figured out was, the Black & Deckers of the world, the large companies are great at the process, right? Great at plugging things in and making sure it works and expanding and scaling it up, and not always great about the people side, the mission, vision, values, the emotional side, the gut side of business. And as I moved into more smaller businesses, entrepreneurial type companies, I realized they're great at the people and the mission and the vision and the go, 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 and everyone's in it together, and not always great at the process side. So while I was at Zero Res, our owners actually brought in a coach. We were on, I think we doubled the business, doubled revenue, something like 7-8 years in a row, which is impressive.
So every year you were doubling.
Yeah, it was like 500 to $1 million to 2 to 4 to 8 to nearly 15.
Wow.
And in the process, there was this recognition for we're starting to collapse under our own weight, right? There was not a ton of necessarily process in there, right? It was just kind of wake up, kick ass, repeat.
There's organic growth and just
yeah.
Okay.
And they brought in a coach who came in and looked at their operation, talked with the owners, talked with leadership, and said, if we do a couple things differently, this thing can, we can, do what we're trying to do, right? Get everything out of the way, build some process, allow things to grow, allow some repeatability and structure to happen. And what I saw as someone in a director level role was things were happening and things were getting done that I'd brought up 2 years ago.
Okay.
And that fell on deaf ears, right? And then suddenly this outside person with some resources, some ideas, and I think most importantly, no agenda, right? No axe to grind, no dog in the fight except to make them better, came in with those same ideas and maybe a different way to spin it and a different way to kind of frame it up to the owners, and things started happening.
Okay.
And initially that was kind of an ego blow for me. Like, well, I've been,
oh, sure,
we've been talking about this.
Sure.
And then I realized, this is good. This is good for me. This is good for my team. This is good for our division, because those things that we need to happen are starting to happen. And so for me, that kind of just filed away in the back of my brain. Like, okay, this is interesting. Maybe I should do that. And then, got to work, got busy, forgot about it for 2 years. And a couple years later,
was it kind of in the back of your mind though?
Yeah, I knew that I wanted to do something on my own. I never really knew what it was. And then in fall 2015, a bunch of things kind of lined up for me, like personally, professionally, financially. My mother passed away, gave me a little bit of, that sense of mortality.
Okay.
I was coming up on 40. I'd been talking about having something of my own since I was 30, and that decade went fast. And realized that, oh man, the next decade might go even faster. And what does it look like to pick up and start all over on my own at age 50? That sounds daunting, because now suddenly we're paying for college and there's a lot of things happening. And so maybe I need to do this right now, right? Well, I can still, if I fall on my face,
yeah,
I can recover, right? I can pick back up and go work for somebody else and figure it all out and make up for the losses. And so, that personal thing lined up, the opportunity lined up, there was a little bit of windfall money that kind of helped out some things to kind of ramp a business.
Sure.
And I went back to this coaching idea. This like, what does that look like? What I knew was I didn't necessarily want to start my own thing, right? I did not have that kind of better mousetrap idea of I'm going to spool a business up from nothing. So I was looking to buy a business. Let's find something and make it better, right? How do I build it? How do I build on what's been done? In the process, I was connected to somebody who was a franchise broker and said, you don't have to buy an existing business and make it better. You can buy into a piece of a business that's already been tested and proven. And one of the things we talked about was this company called Focal Point. And that kind of sparked back the 2 years ago of, oh yeah, that's interesting, because I think I can do the work. I think I've got the experience. I think I've got the ideas. I've got the wins and losses, the bloody noses of, professional success that I could use to help leverage other small business owners. And I've got this kind of blend of big company, little company thing, which I think could be.
I love that blend, by the way,
right?
What you talked about, kind of the differences.
Yeah. I mean,
so true.
It is. Yeah. Both things matter. And if you only have one, you're missing something, right? And it can be hard to mold them together. And so the Focal Point brought the content and brought the ideas and brought the tools around, okay, this business is struggling with this specific system or process. And you know how to talk to them. And here's an idea, a concept that might kind of bridge the gap. And, had some conversations, got to know the leadership, the ownership, met a bunch of coaches, realized that these are a lot of smart people who are really good at what they do, and I want to be a part of it. And signed a franchise agreement in the spring of 2016 and hung my shingle in June. And
wow.
Yeah.
So when you met with the leadership team of Focal Point, when did you kind of realize that I really do kind of have a knack for this?
There wasn't a moment, right? There were a lot of little pushes that happened throughout this. And it was a 6-month process. I took a long time. I wanted to get it right? I wanted to make the right decision. And I feel like my mom was just kind of on my shoulder.
Okay.
Just kind of pushing me along the way and
got it.
Leading to different things. One of the missional aspects of Focal Point, our kind of core beliefs, is we talk about being a pebble on a pond, right? And, you drop a pebble in the pond and it makes a little ripple, and those ripples, resonate outward and across the entire pond. And coaching a small business is like that. If I'm working with a small business owner who is trying to go from good to better, whatever that looks like for them, oftentimes that means a growing business. And a growing business means employing more people and providing better service or more services or better products to more customers, which makes customers' lives better, which makes employees' lives better. Those employees, those happy employees, might be more involved in their community. They make their communities better. Better communities turn into better neighborhoods, turn into better towns, better counties, better states. And that success and that opportunity just kind of resonates outward. And I was at church whenever it was, and the sermon was about serving the greater good. And then the next week I have this conversation with someone at Focal Point who brings up this pebble on the pond idea. We're just dropping pebbles. Mm-hmm. We're just making the world a better place. And I thought, well, everything just kept lining up to the little pushes and little pushes and little pushes, to the point where I kept trying to say no, try to find a reason to walk away from it. And every no just kind of fell away and fell away and fell away. The point was, here we are, got to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it. You were listening to your mom a little bit.
Yeah, very much so.
So this was even after she was gone?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
This was all after none of this happened until she was gone.
Okay. It reminds me of, I don't know if you're a fight fan or not, but when Buster Douglas beat Mike Tyson,
yeah,
and his mom had died, and he told her, I'm going to beat Mike Tyson.
I'd never heard that before.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember the fight, obviously.
Yeah. But it kind of, I don't know, it reminded me of that, but kind of cool. Talk about the chills. I got the chills right now. But, a cool story.
Yeah. There was, so my mom's name was Lucy. And she passed away of Alzheimer's disease in the fall of 2015. And so a lot of this stuff was about, knowing that there very much are some, genetic markers for Alzheimer's, right? It's like everything else, right? We can't fight our genes.
Yes.
They're going to direct us where they direct us. And there was that mortality thing was kind of about, how many more good years do I have left? Which is like an extremely dark way to think about it. But mm-hmm. it was motivating. It was like, well, do it now. Get going. Right. And so along the way, she's just pushing and pushing and pushing. Meet this woman who is a franchise consultant, helps people like me find opportunities. And her name was Lucy Devine. I'm like, well, this has to be a thing now. We have to go. We have
she's
to
the
work
last name too.
Right. So I think about that a lot.
I like that. So, you've been doing this since 2016. Tell us a funny story, an interesting story, or somebody you've helped along the way that kind of resonates with you.
You know, I don't know if it's a funny story, but one of my current clients, my business is, I mean, you know, in almost 9 years has evolved and changed, and the way I work with clients now looks a lot different than how I worked in 2016, partially because of me and partially because business has obviously changed. How we operate, how we interact has changed quite a bit. And one of the big moves I've made is that one of my main focuses as a coach is working as a facilitator for CEO roundtables, masterminds. This idea of if 2 heads are better than 1, 8 heads are better than 2, right? Let's get a group of smart business owners in a room and have them just kind of beat each other up for a few hours and solve problems, right? Really push each other, really talk through an idea or a concept or a struggle or an issue that one of the owners is facing. And what happens is...
Can I pause you for a second?
Yeah.
So are you, so you're putting together almost like board of directors type things?
Yeah, essentially, yeah. I mean, that's essentially what it is. It's a bunch of businesses that aren't necessarily established enough or big enough or have the desire to have their own board of directors, but they all serve as each other's board of directors.
Okay.
Right?
Sounds good.
And one of my clients that's in this group, he runs a really great architecture firm here in town. And we were together. We were in some event, and someone asked him, he said, well, what's the big benefit of the group? I mean, you talk about this group all the time that you and Adam are in, and you know, what are you getting out of it? Which is a fair question. And I think my guess is the questioner expected Tom to say, oh, we've gone from this big to this big, or this much profit to that much profit. And he said, you know, everyone in the room sleeps better at night because we're getting good ideas and making the right decisions because we've got people that we can count on. And I'm like, I love that so much.
Yeah.
Like, man, I'm in the business of helping people get a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
That's refreshing.
Yeah.
That feels good.
I like that.
So I like that one.
That's a good way to think about it. So the name of the podcast is The Chills. And we talk about the chills like in a good way, like what makes the hair stand up on the back of your neck and your arm. So in your business, can you share a moment, even if it's the one you just shared is fine too, help somebody or kind of a revelation type moment?
What I would probably settle on is there's a lot of them, right? And I look at my role, and it's gonna be a tricky job because my role is not necessarily to provide the answer. My role is to help someone kind of down a path where they figure out their own solution, right? And that's simply because, you know, if you come to me with a problem and I say, here's what you should do, go do this and you'll be successful, it's likely going to work, right? Assuming I'm giving you good advice. Let's assume that what I told you was the right thing to do.
Sure.
You're going to do that thing, it's going to work, and you're going to move on. And you may not have learned anything in the process, right? Because you basically just followed my direction. Whereas if you come to me with an issue and we work through it, and through the conversation you figure out the solution, right? Well, now you're more engaged because you found your own solution, you solved your own problem, and B, you probably actually learned something that you can apply again over and over because, again, it's your idea, right? It's not just me telling you what to do. It's the whole, you know, give a man a fish, teach a man to fish thing. I'm in the fish teaching business. I was with a client just a couple weeks ago, and we're talking through, he's getting ready to set up a big, you know, annual meeting with his team, talk through numbers, talk through all their goals for next year. And he said, I think the revenue goal is this. And it was a big number. It was big growth over, and they had a great year. And this was a big job. And I said, okay, so, you know, talk me through the process. How'd you get to the number? And he said, well, we've been doing this and, you know, all the different things. And I said, well, why don't we break that down by people, right? Let's really look at that and let's kind of wind it backwards. If you're always setting a goal that's impossible to hit, after a while, it doesn't feel great. It doesn't feel great to always miss your goal, right? So maybe we wind this back to something that's a stretch goal that maybe you can get there with, a reasonable amount of hiring in a year in what has been a, tough hiring market because, people do have jobs right now. And I said, okay, so it's things like that. It wasn't like this great epiphany, but what it was he figured out a better way to kind of, back his way into a goal instead of just throw a dart at the board and see what you hit.
Yeah, you're reverse engineering it. And how does it work?
Yeah.
I like that. It was into perspective for people.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think for him, he said, okay, so, and we, I think, ended up just winding them back just a bit to a significant growth number, but one that felt attainable and reasonable, not just in his brain, but on, when you look at it on paper, like, can we actually get here? What would feel really good for your team and be a stretch and be something you could celebrate and also be something that you could actually conceivably hit by year end?
Yeah, I like it.
It's fun.
Yeah, I love that. So I've been doing this for almost 9 years now.
Yeah.
Give the audience a tidbit of information, entrepreneurship, how to get started, some trials and errors along the way.
How to get started? I mean, just make the decision to get started.
Just do it.
I mean, honestly, it's at some point, you've got to make a decision. You've got to say, yes, I'm going to do this. And we were talking about Corey Hickman.
Yeah.
At Comfort Matters. And it's exactly what he said. He just kind of woke up one day and kind of realized that maybe he could do it better than his boss was doing it. And that's the first step, is realize that there's a better mousetrap out there. And then, like you said, he goes, okay, I did it. I bought a truck. So he took the first jump, right? Made that first decision and then built a plan around it.
Yeah.
And I think those are the two most important things is have the guts to do it and then have the foresight to try to map it out.
Yeah.
Right.
We recently had a guy on the podcast that said, you don't really need a business plan until you go to the bank for a loan. So you got to start making some steps.
Right. Yeah. The business plan is just for a loan.
Yeah.
Right. A business plan and a strategic plan are two different things. One is all kind of numbers and finances, and here's how you'll get your money back as a bank. Right. And the other one is actual goals and who you need to meet and what you need to do and what are the things that are getting in your way. What are the obstacles? How do we see around that corner and plan for what's going to break? Because something's going to break.
Yeah.
Right. If you build a plan with no contingencies, you're probably going to fail because you're expecting everything to be perfect. Then things won't be. Things are going to go haywire. And if you can map out what those things are that might go wrong, you can build plans to address the things that go wrong, which allows you to either minimize that constraint or get around it or avoid it altogether. Right? I mean, a strategic plan is just a roadmap.
Yeah. Right?
And you look at a map and you're looking at the best possible thing, but now Google says, oh, by the way, there's construction here, accident there, da-da-da. And if you know those are coming, you can plan around it.
Yeah.
We've got to look for the construction.
Sure.
Plan for it.
Do you have other employees?
I do not.
It's just you.
Me. It is just me. I've built it. Yeah, I've got a great network and community of fellow coaches, and we leverage each other quite a bit.
Okay.
I mean, part of this, the beauty of this operation is, I mean, I'm on calls every week with other people doing what I'm doing, sharing ideas. I'm in a roundtable.
Yeah.
I'm in my own roundtable, right? And we push each other, share metrics, talk about what's working, talk about what's not, and develop our own next version of best practices.
Okay.
So for me, most of my scalability, there's things I need to do. I mean, there are things with automation that are coming up. There are things with, finding in 2025 some type of an assistant to manage some of those other things so I can spend more time doing the work.
Yeah.
And then, for the most part, my goal is I'd love to create a team. I'd love to have a group of coaches doing what I do. And so what I do right now is, how do I take this business from something that is done by me as the coach with a one-to-one relationship into me being the person that can just plug people into relationships
Got it.
with clients, either on a one-to-one basis or a group basis.
Okay. How is the whole franchisee process been for you?
I love it.
It's been good.
Franchises are they're a different animal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think even when I first met Lucy, someone said, you should meet this woman named, she's a franchise consultant. I said, well, I don't want to own a sandwich shop and I don't want to own a hair salon. So why would I buy a franchise? And they're like, oh, there's so many other things out there. I mean, there's probably a franchise for every business concept out there, right? Everything that we may use service-wise or product-wise, there's probably a franchise for it. Not all of them are great franchises, right? That there's a lot of variation in there, but ultimately, if you find a good franchise with a good system that has gone through the process, right, and built a business and proven the model and then written it down and building things around it and building tools around it, it's a great start. Because what it allows franchisees to do is take a model that's been proven, that works, and then find ways to put their stamp on it.
Yeah.
To build on it. I love talking to people about franchises. I think it's a great, if you're like me and you are moderately entrepreneurial and you don't necessarily have the idea, the light bulb, but you could take something and you're pretty good at following a process and finding a way to build on it. I think franchises are a great opportunity for anybody.
Mm-hmm. And is there a group of, and you touched on this a little bit, is there a group of people within the franchise that you get to meet and share ideas with? And
for me personally?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
So Focal Point has almost like a board of directors.
Yeah, we've got, strong leadership based out of Vancouver, Canada, which is interesting. We're a Canadian company. And they're still great people. Even though they're Canadians, they're still great people.
Yeah, I agree.
The leadership's excellent. We're very crowdsourced at Focal Point. I mean, I think what the franchisor has figured out is when you have a lot of, every coach out there has conquered their professional lives, right? They've run businesses, they've been CEOs, they've been director level, they've been entrepreneurs, and at some point they felt this calling to take what they know and take their successes and their wins and their failures and their losses and use that to help the next generation of business leadership get better faster by maybe avoiding some of the mistakes they made. And when you have smart people like that, the smart franchise just says, we're just going to kind of get out of the way. We're going to set some things in place, give you some tools and say, y'all figure out how to do this better than we did last year. And so a lot of the things that I'm doing now as a coach didn't necessarily exist 8 years ago. And they've kind of been crowdsourced because, Coach John or Coach Tricia in Dallas or, Steve in Boston figured something out and tried it out and took two ideas and smooshed them together and had success and then told a couple buddies about it and then they had success. And the franchisor says, let's put some marketing behind it. Let's make that into part of what we do, part of our offering and really build it up. And that's, the crowdsourcing is great and there's buying power. There's the ability to say, hey, if we do this with 200, 300 coaches, we can scale it up faster and maybe do it more efficiently. And that's what I think Focal Point is really good at.
Sure. So how can the audience or myself help your business or help you get more leads or?
I just love having conversations.
Yeah.
I love meeting business owners. I love meeting entrepreneurs. I love meeting the chief deciders of a business. The people who, the buck stops here people, right?
Yep.
The ones whose decisions impact the lives of employees and vendors and partners and customers and clients. And it's just fun to learn about businesses, right? The best part about my job is every day I'm meeting somebody new and learning what makes them and what makes their business tick, right? And for me, sometimes that conversation turns into, there's something that maybe we should work on potentially. And sometimes it might be, you're doing something cool. Do you mind if I tell people about it?
Okay.
Right? Every mistake that a business owner makes is an opportunity to learn and an opportunity to help somebody else avoid that mistake. And so I just I collect wins and losses and put them in my pocket and use it to make my clients better.
Yeah.
So for me, it's about just meeting people.
Yeah.
Yeah, you never know where it'll go.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So how do people get in touch with you?
A Thompson, ATHOMPSON at focalpointcoaching.com. I'm all over LinkedIn. Find me there. Connect with me. Love to have a conversation. Those are probably the two best ways.
Yeah.
Send me an email. Let's grab a cup of coffee. Let's jump on a Zoom. Let's talk about what you're doing. Let's talk about what you love. Let's talk about what's working. Maybe let's talk about what's not, and let's see where it goes.
I like it.
Yeah.
This was fun. Thanks for coming.
My pleasure, man. This is great, Brad.
Yeah.
Bye.
And that's a wrap, folks. A huge thank you to our incredible guests and, of course, Allweather Roof for making this podcast possible. If you enjoyed these conversations as much as we did, don't forget to hit subscribe and share the chills with your fellow business aficionados. Remember, it's not just about business, it's personal, and it's all about the people. Stay inspired, chase those dreams, and let the chills guide you. Till next time, this is Brent, signing off from the Chills Podcast. Catch you on the flip side.